Gabby Gogbog, the most fashionable witch in the cosmos, had returned from her intergalactic holiday. She'd zoomed past Jupiter. She'd popped into Venus for a quick mani-pedi. Now she was back in dear old Britain. Landing her rocket-powered vacuum cleaner was a piece of cake. Finding her favourite pair of sparkly ruby-encrusted shoes, however, was not. They were gone. Vanished. Gabby checked under her cauldron. She rummaged through her cupboard full of bottled troll boogers. No shoes. This was a disaster. Worse than a hair potion gone wrong. Worse than a goblin with the hiccups. Just then, a little gnome with a feather duster poked his head out from behind a stack of spellbooks. "Heard a rumour, Miss Gogbog," he squeaked. "A scrawny old fellow with a limp and a taste for leather gobbled them up, said they were going to be the main course at his next feast." Gabby's eyes narrowed. Nobody but nobody messed with her shoes. It was time for a little chat with the British government. The Houses of Parliament had never seen anything like it. One minute, the members of Parliament were debating the crucial issue of biscuit taxation. The next, the doors burst open with a bang that rattled the teacups in the canteen. In swept Gabby Gogbog, a whirlwind of green hair, fury, and stardust. "Right, you lot!" she boomed, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Which one of you stole my shoes?" The MPs, a startled bunch at the best of times, looked at each other nervously. Some pointed at a particularly pale fellow who had a penchant for chewing on his leather wallet. He, in turn, pointed at a pigeon that had flown in through an open window. Gabby tapped her foot impatiently. Her sparkly toenails, usually gleaming with magic, were dull with rage. "I haven't got all day," she roared. "Where's the scrawny old shoe thief? Hand him over or face the consequences." The MPs, bless their cotton socks, were a bit slow on the uptake. They mumbled and stammered, completely flummoxed by the irate witch in their midst. One particularly brave, or perhaps foolish MP, even tried to offer Gabby a digestive biscuit. Big mistake. Gabby's patience, never her strong suit, snapped like a twig in a hurricane. "Fine," she shrieked. "Have it your way." She whipped out her wand, a gnarled stick topped with a flashing disco ball. With a flick of her wrist and a shout of sausage roll surprise, the entire chamber was bathed in a blinding pink light. The MPs, every last one of them, were transformed into sausage rolls. Plump, golden-brown sausage rolls, complete with a scattering of sesame seeds. The smell of pastry and pork wafted through the air, replacing the usual aroma of old books and stale coffee. "That'll teach you to mess with Gabby Gogbog," she huffed, marching out of the now silent chamber. News of the sausage roll incident reached 10 Downing Street faster than a pigeon on a hot date. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, choked on his cup of Earl Grey in shock. "Sausage rolls," he spluttered. "The lot of them." His trusty Labrador, a rescue dog with a penchant for belly rubs and chasing squirrels, whined in sympathy. "Don't worry, boy," Keir soothed, patting the dog's head. "We'll get to the bottom of this. We need a plan, and fast." He summoned his most trusted advisors. Eric Pickles, the former MP who had a rather unusual talent for communicating with rodents, and Noel Edmonds, the television presenter whose love of mystical trinkets was legendary. And because desperate times called for desperate measures, he even contacted his predecessor, Tony Blair. "Gentlemen," Keir announced, a glint in his eye, "we have a witch to catch." Section 5. A trapdoor and a dastardly plan. The plan was simple, if a little unorthodox. While Noel distracted Gabby with a dazzling display of flashing lights and mystical chanting, courtesy of his collection of Himalayan singing bowls, Eric and his army of trained rats would lure her towards a strategically placed trapdoor. Tony Blair, meanwhile, would stand by with a fire extinguisher, just in case. "Brilliant," declared Eric, his pet rat Squeaky, nodding in agreement from his perch on Eric's shoulder. "She'll never suspect a thing." The trapdoor, hidden beneath a rather unconvincing rug depicting Big Ben, led to a network of tunnels beneath the Houses of Parliament. These tunnels, long forgotten and smelling faintly of damp socks, were the perfect place to set a trap. "And what happens when she falls through?" asked Tony, adjusting his tie nervously. Keir smiled. "Let's just say we have a little surprise waiting for her." Section 6. The Shoe-Eating Fiend Unmasked. Gabby, initially distracted by the flashing lights and the unusual sight of Tony Blair holding a fire extinguisher, soon grew suspicious. She swatted away the incense smoke with a wave of her hand. "This is ridiculous!" she cried. "Where are my shoes?" Just then, a cloaked figure emerged from the shadows. He beckoned to Gabby, his voice a raspy whisper. "Follow me," he croaked. "I know where your shoes are." Intrigued, Gabby followed the figure towards the trapdoor. She didn't even notice the rug disappearing beneath her feet until it was too late. With a yelp, she tumbled into the darkness. She landed with a thud on a cold stone floor. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she realized she was in a vast underground kitchen. Pots bubbled on stoves, cleavers gleamed on hooks, and the air was thick with the aroma of... Were those her shoes he was cooking? The cloaked figure threw back his hood, revealing a scrawny old man with a mischievous glint in his eye. He grinned, revealing a single gleaming gold tooth. "Hello, Gabby," he cackled. "Fancy meeting you here." Section 7. A feast fit for a fiend. The kitchen was a sight to behold, though not necessarily in a good way. Skulls of various creatures, from mice to, Gabby shuddered, unicorns adorned the walls. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling like macabre decorations. And in the centre of it all, a long wooden table was laid out with a feast. But this was no ordinary feast. There were platters of roasted toenails, bowls piled high with sautéed shoelaces, and a steaming tureen of what Gabby could only assume was toe jam soup. And at the head of the table, gleaming under the light of a flickering chandelier made of wishbones, sat her ruby-encrusted shoes. They'd been boiled to a pulp. Section 8. Gabby sees red, and it's not lipstick. Gabby stared at her ruined shoes, her blood boiling hotter than her cauldron on potion brewing day. Her favourite shoes. Boiled! It was simply unforgivable. "You!" she sputtered, her voice shaking with rage. "You ate my shoes!" The old man chuckled, picking up a shoe with his bare hands. "They were delicious, my dear," he said, taking a bite. A little chewy, perhaps, but the ruby buckles added a certain something. That was it. Gabby saw red. Not the sensible pillar-box red of her favourite handbag. No, this was the furious explosive red of 1,000 exploding volcanoes. Section 9. The final shoe-down. Gabby raised her hands, sparks flying from her fingertips. "You're going to regret this, old man," she roared, her voice echoing through the underground chamber. The old man, still chewing on a ruby buckle, just laughed. "Don't be ridiculous, Gabby," he scoffed. "What are you going to do, turn me into a slipper?" He was about to find out.